Welcome to the Big V Podcast, talking all things rep footy in the VAFA.
Welcome along to the Big V Podcast's 2025 post-game edition, and what a weekend of football it turned out to be. The Big V taking on Perth on Saturday in a doubleheader, and then the Bendigo Football League on a Sunday doubleheader. 4 fantastic games of football. In the end, the Vics prevailing in 3 and losing the other by 1 straight kick. It was wonderful all weekend. Great atmosphere, great vibe, great contests. Paddy Grindlay Cal Cummins, you were there for all of it. What did you make of it?
Thank you, Jace. A lot of energy from you for a man who put an entire broadcast production to line that went for about 7 hours. What a weekend of representative footy. Every single game was so compelling, so many storylines, so many highlights, and a few errors in the commentary box from yours truly, but let's not talk about that till later on. Yeah, just a wonderful weekend. It was a pleasure and an honour to be a part of it. Cal Cummins, you did all 4 games, either on the boundary or in the commentary box. You did a stellar job. Congratulations.
No, thank you, Paddy. Thank you, Jace. It's a pleasure to be here, and you're right. It was a very tiring weekend, but one that I would absolutely do 100 times over again. It was absolutely awesome, and you do mention like the class out there from the Amos. There was just so much talent in all 4 games that was out there. It was really awesome to see, and just the trajectory of the game just continuing to rise year on year.
There's such a build-up to Big V weekend. It's something we look forward to all year, and Paddy, it feels like it delivered and then some this year. There's such a big build-up to it, and we all get so excited by it, and there's so much work to do in the lead-up, so much to do across the weekend, but now you sit here and you look back at it and you go, wow, we couldn't have expected any more.
I think the word that comes to mind for me is heightened. Every game felt like it mattered so much to the players, to the coaching staff, to the spectators. And it didn't just feel that way for the Amos. I think it felt that way for the Perth Footy League, for the Bendigo Footy League. I mean, being at the ground, Cal, up at the QEO, the Queen Elizabeth Oval, up in Bendigo, you could tell that the spectators who'd come down, who were local watching their Sandhurst boys or South Bendigo boys play, felt so invested in the outcome, which made it so compelling to broadcast.
Well, I was down on the boundary for that second game in the seniors clash, and I had noise-cancelling headphones on. I could still hear the crowd going nuts behind me, every single tackle. In that last 10 minutes in particular, it was crazy.
The one negative for me, Cal, was being in the commentary box that was in the grandstand, because I would have loved to have looked upon it, because it was chock-a-block, and it was chock-a-block from the under-19s game as well.
It all kicked off on Thursday night, which I thought set the tone beautifully. We had the Big V Centenary Gala at Centrepiece. Paddy, you were fortunate enough to be there and spend some time talking with players and past legends and just being able to soak up the atmosphere and the tradition, and you know everything that's so special about the Big V was encapsulated on that night. And I thought it set the tone for the weekend perfectly.
Yeah, it did. And you watched the players file out of the room after they received their jumpers on stage. Wonderful emceeing job done by yours truly, I suppose, Jace. But you could see that the moment they walked in, there was a little bit of hesitancy, I suppose, with the all the elevated level of the day and the evening. And then as soon as they came out, having heard from the Big V legends, having sat through the dinner and spoken to a few people, that they really got it. By the time that they were on the blue carpet, they understood the tasks that was at hand. And you saw this group of young men and women who felt really honoured to pull on the Big V. So, yeah, a wonderful afternoon. I don't think I've seen an event landed as successfully as the Amos did that Thursday night.
Well, I was obviously unfortunate not to be there, but from all I've seen all over the social medias that the VAFA have been putting out, it was one of the nights that just won't be forgotten for those that were there. And you touch on the significance for all those players that were handed their Big V jumpers. It's one of those occasions where you carry those for a lifetime. All
the coaches made reference to it in their rev-ups at three-quarter time and pre-game across the weekend, which, again, is a measure of success of that night. And it's a really nice tradition I think we've got now. We've got the Big V lunch, which has been running since 2007. That's usually a Friday lunch where we've now started this tradition of presenting the current year's teams with their jumpers, giving them an opportunity to immerse themselves in a bit of the history and tradition of it all. And then that theme really carries through across the weekend, and the coaches leverage it, and they leverage it really well to say, hey, we now all know and feel what this is all about, who we're playing for, what we're playing for. Let's go out and do it. It's so much more than just the 22 or 23 players that are running out on the ground on that day. So I do think it's the perfect setup for a weekend of football. And as you guys both mentioned, there was just such passion that carried right across the weekend, not only from the Big V, but from, as you mentioned, from Perth and Bendigo, who were just as desperate to knock off the Big V in their centenary year and spoil the party.
Inside the forward line, Smith the target once more. She'll just keep that ball in somehow, trying to handball it to her. Smell, you couldn't be doing this. Smith, don't tell me you are joking! Unquestionably the goal today for GYG.
It was one of the highlights of Big V weekend, that wonderful goal to Hannah Smith as the Victorian women 6-8-44 defeated Perth 3-3-21 in the end by 23 points. The skipper, TAYLAH WATSON, joins us now. TAYLAH, congratulations on your performance and that of your team.
Yeah, thank you. We've all come down a bit from the win, but yeah, it was an incredible day.
Tell us about the weekend now as you sort of sit back and reflect upon it. You've had a couple of days to just let it all sink in. It was a bit of a whirlwind that started on Thursday night all the way through to Saturday night. What do you make of it now upon reflection?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big week. The gala night Thursday was incredible to be a part of. And then to captain the side, there's a few nerves going into it, but yeah, it was a great day. Weather was perfect. We had a lot of people turn out, so it was awesome and super happy to get the win as well.
What was the message from yourself and from Grovesy pre-game on Saturday? What words did you leave ringing in the ears of your teammates as you ran out?
Oh, look, we knew they were going to be competitive, but we just wanted to play our style of game. I touched on it earlier, but we just wanted to do that run and carry and take the game on and trust ourselves and those selfless acts. We really wanted to focus on celebrating as a team and working for each other as well, which I think we did.
TAYLAH, obviously the lead up into the game was absolutely huge with the gala on the Thursday night before. When you got to the ground on the Saturday, did you really feel the vibe and the sense of the occasion of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. There was definitely a few nerves from the team, but yeah, the Thursday night was amazing to be a part of, to listen to the history of the Big V and obviously the 100th year this year. Yeah, it was incredible.
I was conscious, TAYLAH, we laid it on pretty thick on Thursday night with all the history and the tradition. I had Josh Freezer. The last question I asked of him for the night was, for the players who might be sitting up at the back at the moment thinking, wow, this is all pretty heavy, this is a lot of responsibility on my shoulders. And he tried to just break it down to, hey, that's there to support you, but try to forget about all of that come game time and just focus on what you got to do. We were all concerned that we did lay it on a little bit too thick and that was going to actually make things a little bit too intense and over the top for the girls.
Oh, look, yeah. No, it was awesome to be able to listen to the stories. And I did have a few people coming up to me talking about our 5-0 record as a women's side. So that definitely put a little bit of pressure on. But at the end of the day, as soon as that siren goes and it's a ball up, it's just another game of footy that, we get to play.
And you made it 6-0 with aplomb. TAYLAH, one thing you referenced earlier was the support from the crowd, and I really enjoyed this. The West Brunswick Mafia that travelled out to support you and the other three girls who represented the Magpies. Even your former coach, Marnie Silver, they were out there involved in a media capacity. Can you speak to the support that did come from your fans and supporters and your footy club in the week that led up to that game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, West Brunswick's always been pivotal, that they celebrate everything. But even a lot of the other clubs turned up and there was families, friends, club members. It was just awesome. It was a massive crowd, and anytime a Big V player went near the ball, you could just hear the scream and shout. So it was awesome to be part of.
What did it mean to you to pull on that number one jumper?
Oh, look, it was pretty incredible. I looked at it pre-game and couldn't really believe that it was happening, but I think it'll be something that I'll definitely look back on in the future and remember that game, and obviously to get the win as well is a huge milestone.
Obviously, the vice captain of your own club, do you sort of feel like the leadership group there at West Brunswick sort of help you build those leadership attributes for the Big V game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have two co-captains at West Brunswick who are incredible leaders, and just to learn off them and just play my footy and then leadership skills on the field, and then, to bring it outside of footy is probably something that I'm working on. But, just to even Bree Doyle as well, she was incredible coming up to the game, and I really felt supported from her as well. So just to learn off her was massive.
Looking at the overall numbers of the game itself, if we break it down, you were plus 11 for contested possession, so not a massive discrepancy there. Clearances, you're plus 3, so again, not huge. Inside 50s, plus 1, 28, 27. So those key stats were all pretty even. The one that kind of jumped off the page, Tay, is your ability to hold Perth to a kicking efficiency of just 41%. Your pressure around the ground, and then your ability, conversely, to be a little bit cleaner. That disposal efficiency discrepancy, which in the end was 67% to 46%, that was probably the difference in the game, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And Grovesy touched on it a few times that he wanted to bring players in that were quite skillful. I think last year I mentioned it before, we sort of just bombed it down the line a bit too much, whereas this year we wanted to change those angles and really bring in our skills. And I think, as you touched on, it probably made the difference.
Yeah, -6 for kicks in the end, but plus 56 for handballs, Paddy. They linked up superbly.
We heard a bit from Paul Groves, Taylor, about the group chat that followed last year's game and the excitement that came up to this year's game. How's it been the last couple of days?
Oh, yeah, it's been really good. It's been awesome. We've had a lot of players debut, and to get the win, it was a great night, Saturday night celebrating. But, yeah, it's an incredible group as well. So a lot of young players, so hopefully they can play a few more years. Do
you feel like you've strengthened your connection, not just across, I suppose, your own footy club, but across the amateurs as a whole? Yeah, absolutely. I think Bree mentioned it on Thursday. It's pretty incredible. You get to play against all these players. Some are familiar, some you aren't too familiar with. But once you come out of this team, you know a lot of people across all sorts of clubs. So it makes it really interesting when you come up against them. You sort of know their strengths as well. So it's pretty incredible to be part of. Taylor, mate, you did the Big V proud at the weekend. Congratulations on both your captaincy of the Big V and getting the win over the Perth Footy League. Thanks for joining us. Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Congratulations to TAYLAH WATSON. What a fantastic performance. What a great story. One of the things I loved about Big V weekend was the way in which clubs like West Brunswick and Albert Park and clubs that haven't had a lot of Big V reps over the years really got behind them on social media. They got along and supported them on the day. It was a great reminder of that. You know, we talk about it a lot, that when you're playing for the Big V, you're not just representing yourself, but you're representing your club, and it gives you the entire community something to be proud of. And some of those smaller clubs that haven't had a lot of Big V representation over the years, Cal, they got a massive buzz out of it as well.
100%. And you talk about the social media thing. When we saw the post that TAYLAH WATSON was announced as the captain of the club, all I saw was in the comments was just an enormous amount of appreciation for the smaller clubs that are finally getting the look that their club is being represented on the Big V stage.
And even in that Premier B to D3 game, which is the one that has to span across 50 clubs, across 5 different sections, there was such a great cross-section this year of players from all the different sections. And, they came together just so very, very well, and obviously got the job done. But for TAYLAH WATSON and the Big V women, let's unpack this game a little bit more, Cal. You had the privilege of calling this one. What did you make of it?
I did, and particularly in that first game, you could certainly see that the Big V, they meant business very early. They were putting themselves in a commanding position and kicked the first 3 goals of the game. They let one slip later on, but when the game was there to be won, particularly in the middle of the ground, they were far more clinical and more efficient with the ball than Perth were. They weren't quite as prolific with the ball. I think you touched on the disposal use before. 67% for the Big V and less than 50% for Perth Footy. There was a certain class gap, particularly maybe it was the home field advantage, had something to do with it. But where, as I mentioned, the game was there to be won, Paul Groves and the team were there to capitalise.
Felt like watching from the outside in, there was really good role clarity too amongst the group, which is a credit to the coaching staff and to the players themselves to be able to grasp their roles so clearly in such a short period of time.
There was. The forwards were there. They were completely in sync, and that's one of the key challenges that comes with rep footy. You've got players coming from all different teams that are probably used to different structures. They come together onto one day, and it just looked like they're on the same page, completely on the same page. If you're looking up the key forwards, you're looking up towards Hannah Smith at the top of the square. It could have been Cowan coming through the midfield. You've got Ellie Defina at ground level. It looked like they'd all played before.
I just wanted to mention Hannah Smith. We, of course, heard the audio of that freakish goal that she kicked, ended up with 3, and then Mia Cowan won the Spirit of the Big V award as well. They went into that game 1 and 2 in the goal kicking in William Buck women. So the class really rising to the top. Cal, they seem like the most dominant players on the ground by some distance.
I won't spoil what my votes are, but they're ones that are absolutely towards the top of the tree. Mia Cowan's game you touched on, she was absolutely awesome. 22 possessions and a couple of goals as well. Yeah. 7 clearances, was just seeming to do it all.
And there's a changing of the guard a little bit this year as well, which we've talked about a few times, Paddy, in Premier Women's this year. There is a changing of the guard with Caulfield Grammarians jumping over Old Scotch and St Kevin's to this point of the season, and the gap closing between those traditional powerhouses and the field. And, that's reflected in this team. There are a lot of young new faces, a revitalised young team. And that all seemed to gel together pretty well, Cal. As you said, a lot of girls that are playing their first ever Big V game, but it didn't look that way.
No, and I felt that keenly, I think, with the leadership of the team, because Bree Doyle, of course, has been the captain of this Big V women's team for 2 years. She's still in the squad as the vice captain, but handed the reins over to TAYLAH WATSON. And Breeze, of course, had a long and illustrious career for St Kevin. So you really did get that sense that it was stable leadership at the top, but there were a few changes coming underneath just to keep the group rejuvenated, Cal.
It's an important note that you make there because there was 14 players out there for the women's team that were playing their first game for the Big V. A lot of them are repeat from last year that played in Perth. You mentioned Bree Doyle was the captain there. But, 14 players were out there for the first time in the Big V jumper.
It's a good start of a core group, isn't it, for the
sure.
years ahead. Well, let's talk about your votes, Cal. We'll start with your one. Where would you like to give that?
Well, there was 4 players that I was just tossing and turning between. I'm going to give an honourable mention to Tassiopoulos. I thought she was absolutely awesome. Contested marks galore, right when the game sort of needed to be. When Perth was starting to make a move, Emily was just right in the right spot and just taking those big marks. But I've left her out, unfortunately. I have given one to Hannah Smith with 3 goals. Game defining in the end. 2 votes to the skipper, TAYLAH WATSON, who received the medal after the game, but 3 votes to Mia Cowan. I touched on her numbers before, 22 and 2 goals, which is phenomenal.
And the youngster of the team, Jacinta Baxter, who was a late inclusion into the lineup, ended up, I think, getting the best on ground medal from Perth.
She did. Yeah, she was fantastic as well. Just as you mentioned, the late in, and us in the broadcast position only learnt as to her inclusion about an hour or 2 before the game. So that was awesome to see her come into the team and make such an impact. And, well, maybe those changes going forward can be fantastic for the Big V. What
a talent she is, Jacinta Baxter. She finished with 21 possessions, 5 clearances, and she is certainly the mix for the Anytime Fitness Rising Star in 2025. She's an exciting young prospect, Jacinta Baxter.
Yeah, without question. There's going to be so many players out there for the Big V women's that are the young ones that are coming through the Rising Star, and then come the end of the season when it comes to the League BNF, there's going to be a lot of these players, the 22 on my paper right in front of me, that are going to be right amongst the mix.
Well, that set the scene for Saturday, Big V Saturday, with the senior men's game to follow straight after at Sports Cover Arena at Elstonwick Park. We will cover off that game next on For the Love of the Games Big V podcast.
Hey guys, at GYG we never compromise on the quality of our food. That's why we only serve 100% free-range chicken. We're on a mission to reinvent fast food, because who said fast food had to be bad food? Love ya.
Would you like to get more closely involved with footy and enjoy the unique camaraderie and bonds that exist in and around footy clubs? VAFA clubs are always looking for volunteers to assist with the weekly running of the club, both on and off the field. Log on to vafa.com.au and check out our club directory to find a club near you.
16 points the margin. We've gone 8 minutes in the final term. Kane Loftus breaks free from 48 metres.
Oh, there it is.
Wonderful goal there on the run from Kane Loftus. Brought the Vicks back within a kick at the 8-minute mark of the last quarter, and the comeback looked to be on. It was a thrilling final term in the end. Perth Footy League getting home by 1 straight kick. The man who was awarded the Spirit of the Big V Award, a very prestigious award in VAFA circles, is Louis Butler. And Louis joins us now. Louis, congratulations on your performance.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me too.
Louis, what have you made of the whole weekend, the whole Big V experience, which kicked off Thursday night at the Gala through to the big game on Saturday?
Yeah, it's all pretty new to me. Obviously, quite new to the VAFA, this being like playing consecutive games in a row. So to be a part of the VAFA game against WA was ultimately so fun, especially with teammates like Harry and all the other boys. It was great.
From a Thursday night perspective, what did you walk away from? What were the key messages you took away from hearing from all those old greats from the decades past?
Honestly, just all the history. Like, I had no idea about all the history in the league, and just seeing how much it meant to everyone, the game, and to put the jersey on. I think going home that night, and even Friday night, you're just sort of thinking about it pre-game, how much it means, and ultimately I was just itching to get out there on Saturday. So, yeah.
What did you make of the game day experience? Obviously, you've come from an AFL background, you've played at the highest level. What were you expecting in terms of the standard of footy, and how did it meet those expectations?
Yeah, I actually obviously played at all sort of 3 levels. I sort of didn't really know quite what to expect. Obviously, you're playing with the best players in the league, and some of the teams I haven't even played yet, so I didn't know all the boys. But yeah, I've played WA before in like under 18s and stuff, and they were pretty good. And then versing these boys, they were just so hard at it and tough. So I think after that first quarter, I knew that we're going to have to play pretty intense sort of footy. So it was a tough match. Yeah, for sure.
Louis, it was a few Brighton boys for you to make friends with to start with, but it's a fairly young and new team, this Big V team of 2025. A couple of the players that you would have been meeting for the first time, I imagine, who stood out to you amongst the group?
As blokes, so genuinely they were all ripper blokes. Didn't really know. I only went to training last week, so I was pretty much a late call-in. Few boys at my local team have got injured and gone away, so I think I was just pretty lucky to get in there, to be honest. But all the boys are so nice, and on game day, I think we just clicked, and we ended up going for a few drinks after the game as well, which was good. But yeah, I think the playing in the back line with all the boys down there, it was just great trust from them from behind, and I think the chat on game day was just really good.
Your coach was Daniel Harford as well. What did you make of Daniel and his coaching style?
Yeah, Harf's, he was elite. He was great. I think going into these games, we're obviously some talent in the room, and we're all coming from different clubs. So I think he just tried to simplify it as much as he could, so we could just get the best out of each other. And I think I think we played pretty well. So except just by the end, they just got us. But no, he was good. I think there was no pressure on. He didn't put any pressure on the boys, or he sort of just let everyone bring out their best. And yeah, it was he was great.
You had your opportunities late in the game, Louis. In fact, the last quarter was a really good fight back from the Vics, and you threatened to steal it on a couple of occasions. So at a time when they got on top in that third quarter, it felt like they might be able to run away with the game. But credit to you and your team, you managed to hang in there and almost stole it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. To be honest, I don't even know. Like I was gassed by the end. I was just trying all. But I think that just shows like how much the jumper meant to everyone. So I think just having like Harry and a few of those boys that have done it before, and even the coaches that I'd met, they just put so much pride. And Harry gave like a great halftime speech when we came out, and I think it just sort of fired the boys up going into that second half of the game.
What did he say?
Oh, he was just pretty much like, he just had good emotion into it. It was like, I think all the boys were a bit like, damn, like this really means something. I can't really remember word for word, but I remember the boys looking around at each other and like, damn, like this means something. And I don't know, I think we just really wanted to play for the people that have done it before, especially that's what I felt. I haven't really done anything for my local club yet, or necessarily done anything for the league, so I was just whatever I could do to help the team out, and the people that had come before me, I was just looking to do that.
You won the Spirit of the Big V award for your tireless efforts in defence. You worked so hard all day. As you said, you were gassed by the end of it, and rightly so. You end up 23 disposals, 6 marks and 5 rebound 50s. What did you make of your own performance, and what does it mean to you to be presented with the Spirit of the Big V award? Oh, mate, it was a huge honour. I didn't really know that there was an award for it after the game, and then it got presented with it. I actually dropped it. Slipped out of my hand when I got it, which wasn't great. It was the first thing you dropped all day.
Exactly, yeah. It's so clean otherwise.
No. Yeah, I had a mare. Well, luckily it didn't break, so it was all good. My own game, I don't know. I think obviously where I've come from and just my perspective on footy, I think the main thing I try to do is just, for myself, is just bring the team into the game, whether that's through my voice or things like that. I feel like by coming outside of myself helps the team, but also helps myself. And yeah, honestly, I like when I'm at Brighton or in these sort of games, I'm never trying to do anything too special. I just want to help the team, and whether that's putting your body on the line or the little things, that's what I always do.
Louis, like yourself, there's a few players out there who were donning the Big V for the first time. You might have done it at under 18 level, as you alluded to earlier, but did you sort of understand the significance into the game as to how important, especially in the 100th year of the Big V? Yeah, it was obviously massive. Like my parents came on Thursday night as well to the dinner on Thursday, and I think I don't think we all knew really what to expect going in, and then we were driving home, and they were like, "Damn, this means a lot to a lot of people." And just obviously, I'm so new to the league. I don't know how many games I've played, but
I'm obviously new, and after playing on the weekend, definitely wants me to. I really want to come back next year and give it a crack and hopefully get one better.
That's wonderful to hear. What have you made of the VAFA so far? You're 8 games into your career. Your team, Old Brighton, sit equal top alongside Old Zabs with some huge games to come. One of the things that seems to really stand out, particularly Premier Men's and Premier B and Premier Women's, and in fact all the Premier sections really, is that there isn't a small game. Every game seems like a huge game, and off the back of the break you'll play Old Scotch, and that'll be a blockbuster as well.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I think we were saying that since we played Haileybury, it's just a lot of our boys have gone to Europe or gone on holiday, which doesn't necessarily help us. But boys have stepped up, who've had to come from 19s or the Reggies and stuff and done amazing. But I think since that Haileybury game, I think or the Uni Blacks game, we were like, every game is going to be tough. It's going to be close. And it's just going to take a lot of fight. So I think going into every game now for the rest of the season, we're going to be prepared for these tough games. Guys probably going to have to play a few different positions. Like I might have to play taller, or other guys might have to play certain roles. But all the boys just want to do it for the team, and we all want to win. So that's the main objective.
What have you made of the standard? And are you enjoying the quality of football that's getting played?
Oh, the standards. I've been watching it for a few years because obviously you got mates and stuff, and the standards.
Well, you captained Old Brighton as a schoolboy, didn't you? Sorry, Brighton Grammar?
Yeah, in Year 12. So, got a lot of love for the school. And I think the best thing about it is there's guys from all different ages, and we all get along like we're the same age. And I think that's so nice for when someone like me who's kind of new but from the school comes down, we all just click straight away. I've just really, I don't know, I've been out of love for a bit of footy sometimes, but to be back at the club, I just love it so much, and just really want to win for the boys, and hopefully go a step further this year.
That's wonderful to hear, Louis. It's been fantastic to have you and players and people of your quality in the VAFA. We're thoroughly enjoying watching you go about your business every week. Good luck for the road ahead. Congratulations on your performance for the Big V, and we're so delighted to hear that you love the experience.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks to Louis Butler. And isn't it fantastic to hear an ex-AFL player talk with such reverence about the Big V and the standard of the VAFA competition and how much he's enjoying falling in love with the game again. And as we talk about here, it is all about for the love of the game. Yep. And to hear that come from Louis Butler is heartwarming.
Yeah, he's played 6 games this year, 8 in total. The prior 2 games outside of this year's total came back in 2023 because he's been playing for North Melbourne VFL. So to be able to have a player of his quality play in the Ammos and play so well in the Ammos and then play so well for the Big V, it's great to hear, and it's great to hear how much it meant to him because these things don't just happen. Something like the Thursday night gala, that doesn't just occur naturally. It takes a lot of effort from everyone here at HQ and all the players and all the umpires and physios and coaches that volunteer their time to get this up every year. It's a mammoth effort. So it's great to hear that Louis Butler had such a great time. Unfortunately, couldn't come away with the W, though, in what was a ripping game of footy to watch, Jason.
Yeah, let's unpack it now. The Perth Football League making history on Saturday. They posted back-to-back wins over the Big V for the first time after a thrilling struggle at Sports Cover Arena at Elstonwick Park. It was a twilight game. The ground looked spectacular under lights. Paddy, the Vics did all the early attacking, goals to Old Brighton duo Jamie Hope and Harry Hill, followed by majors to Tarrant and McIsaac. They were 20 points in front entering time on in the opening term, and that was based largely on getting first hands on the footy and then changing angles and creating those uncontested marks, which was the game plan. But then the Sandgropers started to find their feet late in the term. They squared things up on the inside. Goals to Clinton Hinchcliffe and Kobe Fulgrave closed within 8 points, and the game really changed at that point. At some point, Perth just managed to find their feet on the inside and make a game of it. In fact, started to dominate on the inside for periods.
Yeah, they really did. I thought the Ammos in the first 10 minutes were so hot through the middle of the ground. It was something that actually, and I'll speak about this later on with the Premier B Division 3 team as well, that happened in that game as well. Their overlap run through the midfield and their scoring power through their midfielders was superb. They were finding Dane Harvey and Charlie McIsaac down the line. But then I think Perth were able to make the game much more contested, and the likes of Connor West, and Connor West was superb on the inside, went to work and were able to rove both effectively to their ruck and also to the ruck work of Sam Grant of the Ammos, and just got on top around the footy. They seemed well on top going into that final term. When Ollie Houghton kicked that great running goal to start the final quarter, we knew we were in for a grandstand finish, and The Ammos got very close, didn't they? Unfortunately, falling short as far as we're concerned. But a big congratulations to the Perth Footy League. It's their first ever open age team to come out of WA to beat the VAFA on Victorian soil. So a massive achievement for them. And I think it really heightens the rivalry now between Perth and the Ammos for the years to come.
It looked like, Cal, in that third quarter that Perth were going to run away with it.
Yeah.
They had a comfortable lead and it looked like it was almost in danger of stretching out to an unassailable lead. But the Vics responded. Ollie Houghton, as you mentioned, kicked that goal in the opening seconds of the final term, and then Perth responded, and then Kane Loftus kicked that magnificent goal that we heard the audios from a little bit earlier, and then Jamie Hope took a mark and kicked a goal, and it was 4 points of difference at the 13-minute mark, and at this point, it felt like the Big V were going to storm over the top of them, and they had all the momentum, but from that stoppage, the back to the centre of the ground again after the Jamie Hope goal, rather, Hinchcliffe and Connor West, who had been outstanding all day, won the centre clearance. They launched it inside 50. Braden Furmack squared it to the top of the goal square. Blake Morris swooped. He kicked his fourth. And that was the moment that just steadied them. It didn't allow the Vics to actually ever get their nose in front, Cal, and you could just feel the vibe on the boundary line change.
Yeah, without question. It was just, from that point on, it just sort of seemed like they started to do the little things right again. When things were not quite going their way, just those little 1%ers that make such a difference, can be a little bit of a mentality change for the other 21 guys out there that make such a difference. They were plus 22 for disposals in that third quarter. But I want to go back to one point as well. The first quarter, how good the Big V were. 7 marks inside 50 to 0 in that first quarter. And that was the margin at the end, 16-9. So the plus 7 marks inside 50. It was just a matter of fact that when Perth Footy, particularly in that third quarter, when they were going forward, they just seemed a little bit more clinical.
Yeah, and then in the final term, I mentioned Connor West, 11 disposals and 6 of his 10 clearances in that final quarter. He was imperious through the middle of the ground. I mean, you expect it from a guy who has played in an AFL program for the West Coast Eagles and has enjoyed a really strong waffle career prior to and after that. But yeah, he was supreme, the number 5, and rightfully named best on ground by the umpires.
It was, Cal, you made the point about, games like this are decided in key moments, and it just felt like, looking back at the game as a whole, Perth just made the most of their key moments a little bit better than the Vics did. The Vics butchered a couple of opportunities around goal, missed some easy shots. I had some kicks that went inside 50 that ended up getting turned over and they got punished on the rebound. And it was just a couple of those moments in the last quarter where Perth, as you said, were just that little bit cleaner. You were boundary line all day. It was a ferocious contest, wasn't it? The hits.
It was. You could feel them. You could feel them at boundary level. Even if it was on the complete other side of the ground, you could just sense how important each little contest was. Even if it was just a big tackle that leads to a ball up, or 2 bodies come flying in, the ball spills out, and there's another 5 blokes who go diving on the footy at the next contest. Every single contest mattered, particularly as the game wore on and the Big V got within a kick late on in the contest. That's when the game really went up a notch.
And sadly, the Vics had to do it a man short from early in the second term. Our hearts go out to Sam Flockhart, who ruptured his ACL. Fortunately, hasn't also ruptured the MCL. It did a bit of damage to that, but it didn't completely rupture, which is great news. But Sam will have surgery on that shortly. So he'll be out for about 12 months or so, and aiming to be back by the mid-season break next year, and then ideally hopefully for him, sort of jump back on board at Old Brighton and have half a dozen games to prepare for a finals campaign in 2026. So hearts go out to Sam Flockhart. It was a brutal blow for him, and obviously it affected the Vics. They were a man down, and that affected their rotations for the basically almost 3/4 of footy.
Yeah, complete thoughts out with Sammy. It's going to be certainly for him feel like a real long year ahead, and it's you could sort of tell that the Big V were noticeable in a different team without him straight afterwards. But that's besides the point.
He was playing on the wing, wasn't he, Paddy?
They were really excited at the gala night. I spoke to a few of the players and they said, Sammy Flockey's going to start in the wing. He's going to do the Mark Blitzarve stuff for us because he's shown such capacity to do that. I mean, I feel terrible for him. He's only 21 years of age. He won his way onto Richmond's VFL list this year. He's played the 4 games there. He actually made his debut in that Joel Garner goal after the siren game, Sammy Flockhart. So he's had a busy year for the Tigers, and he's had such a strong season when he's come back to play for the Tunners, where he's playing with his brother Felix. His sister Daisy also was drafted by the Hawthorn Footy Club, so they're a footballing family, the Flockharts. Our best to him, but I'm sure that Sam Flockhart will come back a better player from this injury. He's a guy with, I think, top tier standards, can play back, can play forward, can play in the right, can play on the wing, as he did with Aplomb prior to his knee injury. So all the best to Sam. So
Perth midfielder Connor West, judged best of field by the umpires, 32 disposals, 15 contested, 10 clearances, 9 inside 50s. And Clint Hitchcliffe was similarly dominant with 36 disposals, 16 contested, 8 clearances, 5 tackles and a goal. Those two were just so dominant throughout the day. Dane Harvey voted best of field by the Western Australians for his 16 disposals, 8 marks and 2 goals. And as we mentioned, Louis Butler received the Spirit of the Big V award for his tireless efforts in defence. That was one heck of a game.
It was, in fact. Do we want to do the votes?
Let's do them.
So, honourable mentions, I'll start with Dane Harvey, who I thought was a key target down the line. He took a lot of important contested grabs. I think he's finishing on another day. He could have had a 3 or 4 or 5 goal evening. It wasn't quite to be, but he proved to be a focal point up front. Harry Hill was also superb in the clinches. A lot of handballs for Harry. He kicked that great running goal to start off the game. The second goal of the game after Jamie Hope opened the scoring. My one vote went to Kane Loftus out of the University Blacks. He had, I think, 22 disposals and 2 goals, I believe.
He was an example of a bloke who stands up and elevates his reputation on the Big V stage. He was outstanding. And
he seemed to be a player that was that kind of break glass guy for Daniel Harford. We heard in his 3/4 time address that he threw him behind the footy. He get this great running goal, which we heard earlier in this segment. So he was superb. He just stood out as a player who doesn't need to touch the ball a lot to have a massive impact. It felt to me that he could have had 30 disposals, and then you look at the stat sheet, he actually has 10 less, Cal.
And that's an important note you make because
10 fewer.
No discredit to Kane, but you look at the team list of the Big V men's side, and there was a lot of names that you'd expect just to take over the contest. And then you're right, Kane just comes in out of nowhere and just rips the game apart when the game was there to be taken.
Now, he's been massive for the University Blacks this year, and he's a big part of why they are now pushing for a finals appearance. Another man who gets the 2 votes for the University Blacks who's been massive, Campbell Moorfield.
Oh, wasn't he good? Particularly early. He was marking everything that came his way.
Yeah, sticky mitts. Didn't miss out in the grippo, did Campbell Moorfield. The skipper of the University Blacks, of course, who was vice-captain and, of course, a repeat representative for the Ammos. I thought he was superb down back, especially when the Vics were under the pump from the dominant Perth midfielders across the second and third quarters. Fought manfully in his own defensive half and took some wonderful intercept marks. My 3 votes went to the man we just spoke to, Louis Butler. I thought he was the cleanest player on the ground, let alone a Victorian player. Every time he got the footy, he looked so assured. He made the right decisions every time he had control of the football. There was one moment, I think there were 3 Perth players chasing him. He did a U-turn, spun onto his, right foot and hit an inside-out Harry Hill down the wing. He's just a beautiful user of the footy. I just hope that we get to see him at Ammo's level for years to come. Selfishly, I know, because he is a player that can play, I'd say, up to 100 VFL games such as his class. But, geez, he stood out.
Heck of a game on Saturday. It was played in great spirits. It was as ferocious a contest as you could ever imagine in the end. Congratulations to the Perth Footy League, who got home by 1 straight kick in the end, 14-14-98 to the VAFA 14-8-92. Well, that was Big V Saturday, done and dusted. It set the tone for Big V Sunday. More on that right after this.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
Play at this level with your mates at your club and no one gets paid to do so. You are there because you want to. Big difference between getting the lick and not getting the lick and playing with your mates. This solidifies everything that's good about our great game. This solidifies everything about what you've grown to love about it and what you're about to go out there and achieve right now. Put them on! Woo!
That was under-19s coach Paul Carrigan in his pre-game address as we welcome you back to For the Love of the Game, this Big V podcast special. And Paul Carrigan, well, outstanding pre-game of old school rev up from Paul Carrigan and joining us to relive a fantastic performance up in Bendigo over the weekend is the skipper of the Big V under-19s, Charlie Opie. Charlie, welcome and congratulations.
G'day everyone, thank you.
What did you make of the weekend?
It was very enjoyable. We were looking forward to Paul's big speech throughout the week. We knew it was coming and he delivered well. He got us fired up.
I've got one for you as well, Charlie, because it's not the only big speech that I saw take place in regards to the Big V, because one of those was on Thursday night at the Big V Gala. You had all your photos taken and then he pulled you aside as you were going to head back into the room. Was that the kind of lead up the 5 weeks into the game? Lots of speeches, lots of fire and brimstone?
Yeah, it was actually. I wasn't thinking we'd have one on the gala night, but yeah, he did include one of his famous rev ups. That's sort of what he did from the start. You know, our first training, he brought us in and he really emphasise of the program and the meaning behind it and what it really means to wear the big V. I thought he did that well. But yeah, he did frequently mention that.
The old school rev up, Charlie, is largely a thing of the past in footy. We still love to hear them and they're really exciting, but it's not something that a lot of coaches do these days. Did it land with your group along the way? Was it something a little bit different to what you're used to, or do you get sort of fire and brimstone from your local club coach?
We actually do a little bit at Ivanhoe. Our coach, Jared Geishan, he definitely revs us up. But no, not in the past have I experienced that. But we embraced it. We loved it. It really, really did emphasise what it really does mean to wear the big V. And it really before we left that door, everyone was, jumping around in the rooms and, ready to go out after that speech.
Talk to us about the game then, Charlie. Bendigo, they kicked the first goal of the game. It might have been a little bit startling to your boys, but after that, it was really all big V from there. How did you see the game unfold?
We were lucky enough to get the wind in the first quarter, and they definitely got us off guard with that first goal. We got a couple entries early, but then I think we got a bit too confident and got a bit too high up the ground, and they caught us on the way back. But yeah, definitely did think it could be a tough day from that first goal, but we regrouped really well after that and started to lower our eyes and take more poise with the ball, which helped us get some early goals with the wind.
One guy I did want to talk about was Tyson Nagel. I thought he was absolutely awesome. That sort of live wire threat, 3 goals on the day, I should say. How'd you view his game?
Yeah, he took his chances. He's a unreal small forward. He knows exactly where to be, and he capitalised well. Kicking a few goals. Yeah, he was great. I thought he was great.
Charlie, the whole weekend's behind you now. You were lucky enough to take the mantle as skipper, and there was a lot made on Thursday night about the honour of wearing the big V. With the game behind you and now disappearing into your memory, what's your takeaway from the weekend that was?
I think the best thing about it was how close the group was able to come in only about 5 weeks, and people ducking off for injuries and other VFL commitments. I still thought our group was very well connected, and it probably showed with how well we were able to adapt in the game. But yeah, to take from it, I think was definitely the relationships that we built as a whole development, like coaches included. We're all very well tight.
That was very much the theme of Thursday night, wasn't it, Charlie, at the gala, when we hear about all the guys from previous decades, some that, having their 60th reunions, but just that whole concept that, hey, after the wins and losses fade, the relationships endure. Do you feel like you've broadened your horizons, broadened your network within the VAFA and across other clubs, et cetera? Now you've got mates sort of spread across the competition as opposed to sort of just being mainly based around Ivanhoe?
Yeah, 100%. When I first got the email that I'd been nominated, I wasn't, super fussed about it. I didn't make a big deal. But, when I actually got down to Hampton and met everyone, it was actually really exciting to sort of see a different whole side of the VAFA, because a lot of the people were in Prem and we never versed Premier sides because Old Ivanhoe's in Prem B at the moment. So it was
not for much longer, Charlie. Not for much longer.
Yeah. Hopefully, that was our goal at the start of the year. But it was good to see some new clubs and new faces.
And what does it tell you about the level of young talent at the VAFA? Because we haven't had under-19 since 2019. You guys have come in this year and flown the flag just so superbly. There's a group of you now when you really look at it and think, well, you know what, we could play together in these rep sides for the next 5 to 10 years. We could build a core group that does filter through to the senior side in the coming years if we can keep everyone together. Yeah,
that would be amazing if we were able to, come back and see each other at the same time each year. I think from looking at the Big V Premier side, there were some familiar faces who have been in there previously, and I'm sure it'll show with a core leadership group later down if we keep coming back together.
Big back end of the year for you too as well, Charlie, as Jason alluded to. Your club, Old Ivanhoe's, right in the premiership mix in Premier B this year. How are you preparing to slingshot your way into the last 6 weeks of the home and away season?
Yeah, well, we had a good week off this week to regather, bit of rehab and stuff. And then, we're versing Williamstown at Williamstown, so that's a very big game for us to keep our season on track. We've had a couple losses, but I mean we've maintained really steady momentum. But I think getting this win this weekend, it will set our standards very, very high going into the last 6 games.
It's just so tight, isn't it? At the moment, you're sitting in second spot. You've got Williamstown, Old Camberwell, Fitzroy, Old Geelong, Old Trinity and Hampton in the run home. So a bit of a mixed bag, but a great opportunity if you guys can finish strongly and put yourself right in the mix come September.
Yeah, it's a very, very close comp. And each week, there are no easy games. We go in with a hunting mindset now each week, hoping to keep our momentum carried over. No easy games at all.
Charlie, congratulations. Thanks for your service for the Big V over the weekend and over the last 5 or 6 weeks. You've done a wonderful job leading that under-19s team. Great to hear you enjoyed the experience. We're very grateful for all your efforts and best of luck for the road ahead.
Thanks so much. Thanks, guys.
Our thanks to Charlie Opie and all the best to he and Old Ivanhoe for their run home to September. They are in it up to their eyeballs. Cal, let's go back and review the game in some detail. As you mentioned, they got away to a good start. Bendigo put the first one on the board and made everybody sort of sit up and say, oh, hang on, game on here, because we had legitimately no idea what to expect. As we said, there's been no Big V under-19s teams since 2019, so no way of sizing ourselves up against any sort of opposition. They kicked the first one, but after that, it felt like the Vics took control pretty soon after.
Yeah, that was exactly the case. I think what I was saying to the guys in the commentary box from Bendigo up there as well is structurally, it looked like the Big V side were a lot taller and looked like they're going to play a bit more of a bullish, contested kind of game, whereas Bendigo looked to play a little bit more zippy, a little bit more on the ground and try and roll the ball forward, but that just wasn't quite to be the case, particularly after that first goal. As you mentioned, you're right, Bendigo kicked the first and we're all going, okay, maybe we actually got a good game on our hands. But yeah, the Big V, the VAFA, they were just firing on all cylinders after that 18 of the next 22 goals just to run away with it in the end. And really, after quarter time, it just never really looked like competition, really.
Was there a discrepancy in skill level? Because you look at the overall numbers, and particularly kick efficiency from the VAFA. Again, a little bit like the women's game we spoke about with Tay, is that you look at some of the key numbers and they weren't that big a difference. Contested possession was plus 17, no major difference. Clearance is literally plus 2. The inside 50 count, though, off the back of that was plus 17, 50 to 33. And then you look at the stats numbers around disposal efficiency and kick efficiency. For the Big V, it was 70%. For Bendigo, it was 51%. Were the Vics just a little bit tidier with the footy?
They were. So when the game was there to be won, just play the kick mark, do the simple things, the 1%ers you learn at junior level. The Vics were doing that by far classier than Bendigo. Look at the mark count, 101 to 47. That is plus 54 marks difference. Like, that is just game breaking. You're never going to win a game when you have a discrepancy of that much. It just meant that Paul Carrigan's men could just play the way that they wanted.
They controlled the air. You guys said that before the game with the extra size. And as you mentioned, uncontested marks 74 to 37, so literally double. But Paddy, intercept marks 26 to 8. The Vics were able to just control the airwaves and send it back the other way.
Yeah, the one man who I saw standing out was the guy in the number 28 jumper, Mitch Lloyd, who usually plays top flight footy for the University Blues. And it felt like, especially in that first half, he was just marking everything. Every time they went near him, he would pull it down out of the sky. Charlie Richardson and Jack Cheap, number 13, number 14, attacking numerically. They were just supreme. Like, so hard to stop in the air. 9 marks apiece for those guys. What stands out, though, is that 4 contested marks for Jack, 3 contested marks for Charlie in the sky. So just the aerial dominance, Cal, really stood out.
I was having a chat to Charlie the night before the game, and he said, I'm going to play in a wing, which is something we haven't really seen from him. He's played his juniors as a forward, now thrown into the old Brighton seniors. He's gone into the defence. He was on the wing in the 19s game, and that was on full display. He was doing it at both ends of the ground. It seemed like when the Bendigo footy league, they had to kick in, he was right there ready to intercept the ball. If it came his way, it didn't, went to the other side of the ground, and all of a sudden he takes an intercept mark at fullback, and you go, how the heck did he just get there? It was great running from Charlie all day.
And he's going to be a significant player as far as the old Brighton seniors are concerned through the back end of the year, Jace, with Max Bennier out for the season with the ACL, and also, unfortunately, Sam Flockhart.
Yep, which we've spoken about earlier. Mitch Lloyd, you mentioned 18 possessions. 18 possessions at 100% efficiency. Didn't miss a target all day.
There are a couple players, I think, that if you were watching that on and you're a recruiter at the very top level of football in this country, which you would just have a few tabs on, I think Mitch Lloyd would be one of those.
So if I ask you both, obviously the future of the VAFA's in good hands when we've got this amount of under-19s talent and so many of them are already playing senior football. What was your overall takeaway from this game? I'll get Cal's 3-2-1s in a moment, Paddy, but you just watching it from afar, what did you walk away from this game thinking?
Just thought clean, classy, efficient, and then when the Bendigo Footy League tried to press through the Victorians' midfield by kicking it high in the air, they just marked the footy anyway. So it felt to me that everywhere that Bendigo turned, and they did really try and get an advantage on the VAFA Cal, the VAFA had the answers every time. It's just, I suppose, the representatives that they were able to pull out into that game of football were just of such a high standard. I mean, I felt like I'd watched that under-19s team play a higher standard of footy than some Premier teams this season. They were just unbelievable.
You wouldn't have been able to pick, it was the first game of footy you're watching, that was the first time that they're playing footy all together at the same time. They were just on the same page right throughout the game. In terms of a 3-2-1.
Let's start with your one.
Start with one. I've landed on Mitch Kirkwood-Scott for one. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. He just seemed to find the ball everywhere in the back half of the ground. 23 touches, a couple of goals as well. No complaints for him. 2 votes. I really couldn't split 2 and 3. If I could give them 2.5 each, I would. But I've landed 2 votes to Tyson Nagel. He was awesome at half forward, just really provided that sort of threat at ground level if the big forwards couldn't quite take the mark. But 3 votes, I have gone to Tom Farah. 25 touches and a goal. Game high, 9 clearances. In the middle, he was just doing it all.
It was an outstanding performance from the VAFA under-19s. 18-17, 125, defeated Bendigo 5-6-36. So Sunday kicked off in fine style up in Bendigo, and it set the scene perfectly for the Premier B to Division 3 game that was to follow. That also follows for us next on the Big V podcast.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
It might fall for Hartley. Hartley can try and get rid of the ball. The tackle was absolutely magnificent.
Cal
and
Linehan.
he's been pinned holding the ball. If that is not a captain's moment in a big game, I don't know what is. Wow. Linehan might have just saved the day for his side.
Well, captain stand up in big moments, and the Big V Prem B to Div 3 captain Cal Linehan certainly did over the weekend. A couple of critical efforts down back as the Vics managed to hang on in one of the all-time great Big V games. And joining us now is the man himself, Cal Linehan from Beaumaris. Cal, congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Jace. Yeah.
What a game. Have you unpacked it in your mind a little bit? Have you had a chance to sort of reflect on what was an incredible afternoon of footy?
Yeah. It's been pretty exciting, I reckon, since the game finished. The boys had a very good chat about it on Sunday night, as recollecting everything that went on. So, yeah, I've started to unpack it all, I guess.
Mate, I was lucky enough to be in the rooms in the minutes that felt like they lasted for hours after the victory, and it was just a scene of pure joy. Can you take me inside your emotions and the feeling that went on after the final siren sounded, I suppose, in extra time?
It was probably just one of relief, to be honest. I think it'd been such a hectic, 15, 20 minutes of footy. By the time we got into the rooms, it was just pure joy. Everyone was getting hugs and everything like that. I reckon I've seen a bunch of blokes that excited in a very long time. So, yeah, it was just one of just a relief and a lot of joy.
I do want to cut straight to the chase, Cal, talking about those 2 tackles late on in the contest. Obviously, the first thing that goes in your head is obviously just try and take the bloke out, try and prevent any sort of score from happening. Did you sort of understand how important those tackles would be I suppose there was only a couple of minutes left in the game, but at the time, did you understand the importance of those?
Yeah, I think in that fourth quarter, we'd been under siege for a very long time. I think that tackle was probably one that stood out, but there were so many from other blokes as well that blokes were just jumping on grenades, just trying to kill the ball or trying to get another ball up, that sort of thing. So, at the time it felt important, and it was just, lucky to be on the end of one, which is good.
Cal, take us back to the opening part of the game and walk us through basically the ebbs and flows of the entire match, because you get to the end of it, and you guys have had the win in the end, but if you went through all the statistical categories, Bendigo were basically on top in just about all of them, yet you guys found a way to hang in, stay competitive, get your noses in front and ultimately win. Talk us through, from your perspective, sitting there in the back line, watching the game unfold throughout the day, the ebbs and flows of the afternoon. Did you feel like you had control, they had control? Did it sort of rise and fall from moment to moment?
Yeah, it was one that I reckon we probably started the day on top, whether or that was due to the wind, but I think we definitely made the most of it early in the stage of the game. Like, we were fast at the middle, and I think our entry inside 50 looked really solid. Then Bendigo definitely got the better of us, I think, through the second and third quarter. Our contest and probably just our entry inside 50 started to fall away, which was probably on the back of Bendigo's efforts sort of around the footy, just more pressure on the ball carrier, that sort of thing. And then, I think the rain set in and probably evened it up a bit in the last quarter, which probably played in our favour. And as I said before, it just became a bit of a slog. Just both teams trying not to concede, and Bendigo just trying to get a point or anything like that, and we were just hanging on, but luckily we couldn't in the end.
Cal, there were guns on every line, but one of the blokes that you had to look after was Bendigo's spearhead, Michael Hartley, who's had some AFL experience, while Darcy Lowry had to look after Fergus Green. So it was tough sledding in the back half, but you did really well. What was it like playing on that standard of opponent?
Yeah, it was really good. It was one of those things where there was times where I wanted to go up to the footy, and a lot of the times I just have the forward kind of follow me, and I was getting into smart positions. He was keeping me honest. He would always run back to goal if I ever got in front of him. So he, had to stay tight to him all day. But it was a great experience. Like, the amount of times where I was right up on his back and thought I'd got a good fist to the ball and he's just clunked it. It was a bit deflating at times. But just trying to stay as close as I could for as long as I could. So that was about it.
Well, you were able to shut him down. One of the players that Bendigo couldn't shut down was Geordie Bustle, named best on ground. But we'll get to him in depth in the review in just a moment. But how did you view his game? Named best on ground, he was absolutely awesome. Yeah,
he was just unreal. Like, when I was talking through before the early stages of the game, I think he was one that really stood up. And then as well in the overtime or extra time, he was just dominant. He was moving around like it was still the first quarter, I think. So it was a lot of fun. I've played against him plenty of times in the past. It was nice to have him on my team for once and not be chasing him around the ground.
The vibe amongst your group, having spent a bit of time around it over the last couple of weeks, has been extremely good, extremely close. It feels like the bonds of friendship in your group developed really quickly. We've got a little bit of audio here from Luke Marnie and his three-quarter time address, which we're going to play, and then we'll have a chat off the back of that.
At the end of the day, we're in front. We're in front. Come on. We can score this here. Look, you've got to listen to me here, right? We've got to be able to lower our eyes here and honour the bloke who's hitting me up. Okay, Bob, you've got to keep presenting and hitting up and doing that. Then generate overlap. Then control the footy in the launch zone. Then be smarter inside 50. We cannot kick the ball high inside our 50, right? Unless we are slow play and we need to go to the pocket and do that. Otherwise, we can just generate hit-ups the whole way up. The best time we looked in that quarter, again, angles, making it hard for them to defend us. On the flip side, what do we need to stop? Uncontested marks. Yeah. Okay? Too much, too many. You've got to be onto that. If someone's running past you, you've got to go with them. Okay? It's got to be the yap. You've got to be able to yap a little bit more this last quarter. Come on. You've got to be able to yap, because what did we say before when we came in? What were we going to hold up? Shield. And we were going to do everything we could to be able to do that. And this is going to be the test right now. We've spoken about for a long time about all the stories that have gone around us. This is our story. Come on, now, boys.
So that was Luke Marnie at three-quarter time, Cal. A fired-up group. As I said, the bonds between your group seem to be really close, really personal. You gelled together as a team really quickly. You had the chance to captain last year's team and this year's team. Do you feel like your group this year really had that tightness that helped, obviously, in the end, get you over the line in an incredible game?
Yeah, definitely. There was a few boys returning from last year, which I think probably gave us a good starting position. And then a lot of the blokes who were coming in for the first time had either close friends or people from their club that were coming with. So I think, it really helped us just bonding together pretty quickly. I think it was a focus from Marnes. Bendigo mentioned that there was, I think, 14 different clubs that were being represented. So they kind of questioned whether or not we'd be tight as a group. But in fairness, I think everyone felt really connected. Like, whether that was at the event on Thursday night, I think everyone felt like close friends already, which really gave us, I think, a bit of an edge when it came to crunch time on Sunday.
It's your second time in charge of the Big V team, Cal. Are you coming back to try and make it 3?
If I can get a game again next year, we'll see how we go. But I'd love to. It's been both years. I think last year being my first time representing it was always going to be really special, but winning it the way that we did this year with the group that we did, I think it's going to be hard to beat, but hopefully I get to wear it again. It's been awesome.
Cal, desperate stages of that final term. The siren sounds, scores are level. First question, did you realise the scores were level when the siren sounded? And have you played an extra time game in your career before?
Well, I did realise it was level because we'd spent the last 15 minutes just trying not to concede a point and stressing about that, so I was well aware of the score. But I have played in one extra time win before, I think 2 years ago, the final against TAYLAH, where Joel Cusack kicked the winning goal on a torn ACL at the time, actually.
Right.
So that's the only other time I've been in extra time, but never for fighting for silverware, so it felt very special.
What did Luke say to the group?
He lent into, similar to that replay we had earlier of his three-quarter time speech, he really lent into the history of the Big V and this being our chance to kind of create our story. And yeah, it was one of those things where everyone, I think we'd kind of fought for so long to not concede. We were against the wind again. It kind of just felt like we just have to do what we've done for the last 15 minutes. We just need to make it through another 5 and we'll have the wind behind us and we can push forward for a win.
Not to do our man Paddy Grindlay any disservice here, were you aware of the protocols in case of a draw, or did you just assume that a draw's a draw and the game's done?
I was aware only because one, that earlier game that I played, and then I was reading actually during the week about the Big V's extra time win, I think in 23.
Yes. Did your homework, Cal?
I'd read about that. That came up again. So I assumed that was how it was going to be playing out. And then the umpires were all really good and explained exactly what was going on.
Oh, I'm glad the umpires explained it to
the players. They didn't make it up to the commentary box. Poor old Paddy didn't realise there was 2 extra time periods.
All I'm going to say, Cal, is I'm very happy you held on. I'm very, very happy.
What were your emotions?
You would have thought we had very muted celebrations there, but
that's right.
I could sense something was wrong.
Well, the funny thing was I was at Marvel Stadium doing the Sydney St Kilda game for Channel 7, and it was half time in that game, so I stepped out of the commentary box and I was watching the extra time period of you guys counting down, and it was obviously going to count down to 0, but I couldn't work out whether it was the first extra time period or the second.
Yeah.
And then Paddy went nuts at the end of it, but I watched you and the other guys, and no one was throwing their arms in the air, and I'm thinking,
all very stoic.
Geez, it was all very low key. And then, of course, we worked out there was still 1 period to go. What were the emotions at the final siren when you had found out that you'd won the game?
Just pure joy, really. I think being in such a stressful sort of game for that last 15, 20 minutes, actually got to enjoy it for maybe the last 2 or 3 when it was 2 goals we were 2 goals in front. I think James Allen kicked the sealer or the one that gave us a bit of an edge. I think after that, it was probably when it started to settle in that we were a good chance to win it. That's why you saw me going mad after that second tackle. I carried on a bit. We don't really get the chance to celebrate goals down back, so I thought,
why not?
Let it out there. But yeah, just a bit of relief. And I think everyone is just wrapped that we'd had a big theme about sort of creating our own story, and we've been a part of a win like that. It was pretty special.
Where does this memory sit in your footy career overall?
It's something the boys are actually talking about on Sunday after the game, and everyone was saying it's probably the best win they've been a part of. I think just the way that we went about it, like obviously started really well and backs against the wall probably for the second, third and fourth quarter. And to finish the way that we did it in extra time, it's pretty special. It's always going to be up there for me.
Cal, congratulations. Thank you so much for your performance on the weekend. It was an incredible game of football and what a way to win. Well done. And thanks for your time on For the Love of the Game.
Appreciate it, boys. Thank you very much.
CAL Linehan, what an impressive leader he is.
He's a superb player. I think Luke Marnie was so much happier to have him at fullback. Michael Hartley looked exceptionally dangerous down the stretch, as did Fergus Green. But yeah, some of those game-saving tackles and those spoils and marks, he's a machine. You can see why he wore the number 1 jumper in that game of footy, Cal.
And it's also why playing Big V football is of such great appeal, because it does give someone like a CAL Linehan, who's playing Premier C footy at the moment, the opportunity to test himself against a bloke who's played AFL football. How do I go against a guy of that standard? How do I lift my game? What can I learn from that guy? And he goes back now to play at Beau Morris, a better footballer.
100%. And, Bowie there going on pretty nice fashion so far in Prem C. And as you were saying, Paddy, hopefully they can push on towards Prem B, because CAL LINEHAN, what an awesome chat we had to him. He was just absolutely phenomenal. Gave us a great insight into what the team was thinking during the day.
And he gets it, doesn't it? Yeah. Doesn't he, Jace? He understands the honour of the achievement. He understands what it means to play with those players. So, yeah, superb young fella, CAL LINEHAN, and hopefully we get to hear a lot more from him.
Well, Paddy, what an opportunity. It's a great honour to call a Big V game, and what an opportunity you and Cal both had to work on this one and represent VAFA media. You did so superbly. In a game, I'm sure that you guys will actually, doesn't matter how long you work in the media, you'll never forget this one. Talk us through it.
It was just remarkable. It's actually quite difficult to find a place to start. You can start with the protagonists, who were superb, the likes of Geordie Buzzertle, who I'll speak about in a few minutes' time. You can start with the extra time. You can start with the hot start of the Victorians. We'll just go wide away then. So early days, it did feel, as I mentioned earlier, like the game the previous day with the men's. It was the VAFA midfielders on top, overlapping in numbers. Matt Fewings kicked 2 first quarter goals where he was just able to get over the top. Geordie Buzzertle was driving them forward. It really looked like the Ammos were loading up for a big day at the office. But then the Bendigo Footy League, the midfielders stood up. Lockie Tardra, who ended up with 45 disposals,
what a player he is.
28 contested possessions, and the Derek Philo medal as the player adjudged best on field for the Bendigo Footy League. He was supreme, and it was him and Buzzertle going head-to-head. You could really notice that they lifted after quarter time, the Bendigo midfielders. They went after Geordie Buzzertle a little bit. They imposed themselves around the footy and then forged their way forward and were able to hit the scoreboard. The likes of Fergus Green and Michael Hartley, seriously dangerous. Kobe Maxted in the number 43 in the gold and blue was marking everything. He ended up with 3 goals. And it felt like Bendigo had the momentum pretty much from quarter time up to the siren. And it was the Ammos, and the first of the final sirens, I should mention. And it was the Ammos who really had to defend manfully down the stretch. And they did that so well. LINEHAN, who we've spoken to, but also Darcy Lowry out of Fitzroy, who had the job on Fergus Green, was superb. And they just held up, kicked enough goals, so I suppose, to hold off Bendigo as they charged. And then were able to take control in extra time.
When that siren went, it was extra time, Cal. You'd been on the boundary line for the full 4 quarters. Who do you think was going to win?
Well, because we were obviously told in the box that it was 1 period of extra time, so I thought it was going to be whoever won the toss was going to win the game from there. And Bendigo won the toss and kicked to the end of where the majority of the scoring was, to the right of screen, to the Bendigo City end. So at that point of the game, I thought they were going to run over the top, and they probably should have in the end, because they were scoring to the right side of the screen in that last quarter. I think the Big V kicked the last 2 goals of the game to give them. They put themselves in front, and Bendigo missed a couple of chances late. So from that standpoint, Bendigo probably should have won the game. But as we were saying to Cal, he had a couple of match-saving tackles that put an end to that.
So that first period of extra time when Bendigo had the opportunity to open up a bit of a gap, talk us through that 5 minutes of footy.
Well, it did really feel that, I think Luke Marnie, I'm not quite sure what he said, we didn't have the mic in the huddle, but I imagine that there would have been an element of like, we've gotten away with one here, because I think it was Kobe Maxted who had a 50-metre penalty after Jackson Hill infringed on the protected zone, that he could have kicked a goal that would have probably won them the game, and he missed everything. He didn't score, which kept scores tight. I think it kept scores level, if memory serves me correctly. So it felt like the Ammos were like, okay, all right, we're still in this game of footy. Let's go about playing it our best way. And it was the number 14 out of Williamstown CYMS, Geordie Buzzertle, who, as CAL LINEHAN said to us a few minutes ago, played like it was the first quarter. He just went start again. It was like seeing Steve Smith get to 100 and think, I'm making 200 today. He just went back to what he does best. Geordie Buzzertle ended up with the 32 disposals, 20 contested possessions, 10 clearances and a goal, 9 tackles, nearly the quad dub for Geordie. And it was the midfielders who drove forward, got in inside 50. A touch of class helps. Bailey Pace, the old Peninsula Pirate, one of the great goals that you'll see in any game, let alone
what a goal that was.
The first 60 seconds as well of extra time, it was really defining. If Bendigo were able to roll about 2 or 3 minutes just to hold things up, but the Big V, courtesy of Bailey Pace, kicked that first goal 60 seconds into extra time, really set the tone.
Hey, it was just, it was a wet day, and you've got to understand at this point the players are wet, the ball is wet, the ground's wet, everything's wet. He has this clean take off a pack, goes to the outside of the right boot while he's running perpendicular to the boundary line and manages to get the friendly roll as well. He's such a classy operator. You can see why they love him so much at the old Peninsula Pirates, and you can see why I reckon there are a few VFL clubs just inquiring about his whereabouts for 2026.
Which again is another benefit of playing Big V footy. Someone who's buried in the lower sections at the VAFA who may not necessarily be getting the sort of exposure from scouts at the higher levels. Someone like a Bailey Pace stands up in a moment like that, in a game like that, and that's going to get you noticed. They put you on watch lists.
Yeah, and I thought it was fitting as well that Jimmy Allen kicked the ceiling goal, because he played his 150th game for Old Camberwell this season in the seniors, the captain of that club. Just the 3 goals in VAFA footy this year, but he was the guy who ultimately put paid to the contest. So just a remarkable game of footy. I think everyone who was there will remember exactly where they were. The fact that the weather changed, the lights came on, the complexion of the game changed quarter by quarter. There was just so much happening. So it was a pleasure to call and a pleasure to be a part of. Before we move on though, Jace, I do want to thank everyone at the Bendigo Footy League who got the broadcast up. We had Johnny Hunter to work with Cal Cummins over the course of the day. Everyone there at Fresh FM did such a great job at welcoming us into the broadcast. It was a great team to work with.
Why did the Vicks win in the end? Why did the Big V win?
They wanted it more, particularly in that extra time period. They just wanted it more than Bendigo.
Love it.
They were just hunting and hunting and hunting because you're right, it was damp, it was wet. They were able to hold their feet a little bit more when it gets to those sort of times. As I said, yeah, they were just more aggressive when the game was there to be won because there was only 10 or 15 minutes of where you had the game left there to try and win the game for your league. And yeah, the Big V, they wanted it more.
I think for the votes, Jace, if we want to move in that direction, a few honourable mentions. I want to start with Mickey Nichols. It was an almost day for Mickey. He started the game really strongly. He kicked that rolling goal that opened the contest on his left peg. Between those first and fourth quarters, though, in the second and third, he was starved of opportunity, but he looked to be frustrated. But especially in that fourth term, he started getting his hands to everything. It was a tough day. He's not the biggest of centre-half forwards, but he just competes all day long. And I think without some of his long down the line marks and certainly his set shot goal in the final term, we wouldn't be returning down the Calder with the victory. Also, honourable mentions must go to Nathan Ligris, who won the Spirit of the Big V Award, and Matt Fewings as well. One of the guys who jumped on a few of the grenades that Cal Linehan mentioned in our chat with him was Darcy Lowry. He gets one vote for me. Fergus Green looked like he was in a mood to tear apart the game and win it off his own.
And well capable of doing so.
Absolutely. And we've seen it before at VFL level. I mean, I think he's had flashes at AFL level at his time at the Bulldogs and the Hawks, and certainly this year for the Bendigo Footy League. I believe he plays for South Bendigo or Sandhurst. I'll have to double check that one. But Darcy Lowry went to him. He is the co-captain of Sandhurst and managed to shut him out of the game. Quite often he was isolated with 40 metres of space ahead of him. Darcy Lowry out of Fitzroy did a superb job to hold him up. Cal Linehan gets my 2 votes. Wasn't just the tackles, he was super all day. He had the job on Michael Hartley, managed to keep him from tearing apart the game when he threatened to, just organised them well. There were a number of times he was wading out of full back, breaking tackles, taking risks by hand and foot, and they always came off for Cal Linehan. It won't surprise anyone to hear that Geordie Buzzertool got my 3 votes. Just a remarkable footballer. You can see why he's ended up at the Essendon VFL list. You can see why he's one of the last 2 Williamstown CYMS best and fairest.
He was so desperate to play too because he had to be released by the Essendon VFL team to be able to play in this game. So he didn't know until the Thursday night beforehand whether or not he was going to be able to play. He was just so excited to get the opportunity to pull on this jumper. It meant so much to him. And it's just, really satisfying to find out that not only did he get his opportunity to play, but he grabbed it with both hands.
And the stat line is just crazy from Geordie. Premier Data agrees that he was the highest ranked player on the ground. 32 touches, 20 of them contested, 10 clearances, 9 tackles, 8 inside 50s and a goal.
It's rare. I feel for Lockie Tardrew because the bloke's had 45 disposals and 14 clearances and he's only the second highest ranked player on the ground.
Just shows how good Geordie was.
He was
what
remarkable.
A battle that must have been, those two going head to head.
The 2 number 14s. And I mentioned this to a few people, but it really seemed that Bendigo had this focus on going after him after quarter time because Geordie was so dominant. Every time that they hit him, and it was all fair and legal, but you make the man earn his touches, he just bounced straight back to his feet and went just as hard contest to contest, and then the outside. He's just a pleasure to watch Geordie Buzzertool. I think if the CYs can get a fair bit of footy out of him in the back end of the year, they'll be able to hold on to their top 4 spot, and who knows what can happen in September.
So a memorable afternoon at QEO. You can add that to the list of wonderful stories in the history of the Big V. Alongside the 2023 draw at Elstonwick Park, you've now got the extra time draw for Premier B to D3 in a game that will, without question, bond that group even tighter. And it'll be wonderful to see so many of those guys come back again in 2026 to defend that silverware and continue to build that core group. Well done to Luke Marnie, his coaching staff, and all the players. And indeed, maybe you say well done to all the coaches, all the support staff, all the people behind the scenes, the high-performance team, the volunteers. So many people put so much time and effort into Big V weekend. Most of it is unseen because it happens behind the scenes in the days and the weeks and the months leading up to the Big V. It's all done voluntarily. It's all done on top of your club commitments. So for players, they're training Tuesdays and Thursdays at their club. They're then coming to Big V training on a Wednesday night as well. It is a huge ask. But when you have a weekend of football like we've just had, all that time, effort and sacrifice is worth it. And if you asked any of the 89 players that had the honour of pulling the Big V jumper on over the weekend, I'm sure they would agree.
Yeah, spot on, Jason, and well said, and a big congratulations to you as well as far as the broadcast goes and the Big V Gala. You spoke so well in that event. I think we had people steaming out of the big room there at Centrepiece at Melbourne Park, absolutely pumped for the weekend because they'd heard the stories, they heard what the jumper meant, they had an understanding for it, and that's not just the players, but it's the coaches and it's the families, and we heard that from our 4 guests today, how much it meant.
What did it mean to you, Cal?
Well, it was obviously, I called the 19s showcase last year, and that was very, very awesome. Let alone to be on the broadcast now for all 4 games was A, an honour, but B, importantly, it was a lot of fun because the games were they met the occasion of just how important it was to celebrate 100 years of the Big V. And I mean, like the players, and you sort of got the sense there with Louis and Cal, you'd do it 100 times again.
It was a centenary weekend. It was always going to be a special one for the VAFA, and that weekend rose to the occasion. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed it, bringing it to you. Well done to the Big V. Winners in 3 of the 4 games and fell a kick short in the 4th. All fantastic contests. Every player who pulled on that jumper did it proud, and we look forward already to Big V weekend in 2026.